Good morning, KPJK listeners. It's been quite a wacky evening, and we're going to talk about it. But first, traffic.
Hey, I'm out here on Highway 18, and it seems to be a lot of people walking into the street asking drivers to slow down, help them out, give them a light. These motorists, they're just driving on. We need some crosswalks here on the street. Back to you, Phil.
Well, thanks there, Tim, Tom, Tony. This morning's broadcast is brought to you by the Marlboro Man. I want to talk about a special event that happened outside of a gas station. It's really or what I like to call downtown. And a young girl, she found a penny. If you have bugs, mosquitoes, bumblebees flying into your windows at night,
A large house made of wood, surrounded by trees.
Welcome to Twin Peaks The Gifted.
and the well.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM. At FitandTrim on Twitter. And with me, as always, the guy who crushes my skull every podcast with his comments.
Aw.
It's Mork. Mork, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Bubba. I'm doing very well. If you want to do something with me on Twitter, it's at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the ultimate R.
Mork, we've got some of our normal pre-show business to get to, but we always have to start with your ranking. What is your ranking? We just watched Part 8.
Was that what we watched?
Oh, I may have had it on the wrong channel. We watched Part...
I think we may have gotten the Showtime France feed.
So we watched Part 8 of
Yeah.
Twin Peaks: The Return. Mm-hmm. Written by Mark Frost and David Lynch.
Uh-huh.
Directed by David Lynch.
You don't say.
Part 8, got a light.
Got a light.
Let's hear your ranking out of 10.
I am going to give it 7 double Bs.
Double Bs.
Bob Bubbles.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it was all over the place. It was definitely a little out there, as the kids say. But overall, I enjoyed it. I definitely have some questions. I don't want to see 10 more episodes of this, but I'm with it. I'm curious. I'm interested, and I'm going to give it a fairly strong rating for me. I enjoyed the episode overall. How about you, Bubba?
Mork, I have never done this.
Oh,
And
I know what you're going to do. You can't do it.
I mocked Catfish on certain podcasts for doing this. I don't know if
That's
you've
not
done
the
this,
only
but if
reason you
you've...
mock him.
That's true. And if you've done this in the past, I've mocked you for doing it. But I am going to give this episode 2 ratings. 2 different ratings.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So if you see this episode, and if you had shown this episode to me as, hey, David Lynch released this new arty standalone film.
Okay.
If that's the way you had brought this to me.
Sure.
And shown this to me. I would rate this 9
Whoa.
double M's out
Double
of 10.
M's?
Yeah, double M. It's a phrase, a lot of times you'll hear it at the hospitals when somebody gets brought in because they have a mouth monster.
Oh.
When a monster has crawled into their mouth.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
If it had been presented to me like that, I would give it 9 out of 10. I really enjoyed it, the 2001 aspects of it. I really enjoyed it as a one-time experience.
Yeah.
It was really high. But this is the thing I would normally mock. But as Part 8 of Twin Peaks: The Return, I'm going to give it a different ranking.
Oh, no.
As Twin Peaks Part 8, I would give this, and I'm just going to be completely honest.
Oh, no.
I'd give this 2 triple R's
Triple R's?
out of 10.
What the heck is a triple R? And I hate it when you're honest.
Well, triple R's are what I like to refer to as Rut-row Ray. Ray's in bad trouble. Ray had a rut-row. And why am I dividing it like this? When this began and we're following Mr. C and Ray,
Yeah.
I'm down with it.
Hell yeah, we were hanging with Mr. Cooper.
With Mr. Cooper, Mr. C. Ray getting the drop on Mr. C, that seems impossible.
Yes.
Ray shooting Mr. C, I'm like, shocked, what in the world's going on? Then the wraiths, the soot men, you want to call them, the darkened men come out and start dancing around Mr. C. I'm like, holy smokes.
Yeah.
The double B, Bob, Bubble is coming out. I'm like, whoa. Even the nuclear explosion I'm okay with. 9 Inch Nails, I'm not a huge fan of. And then the arty part of this, which we'll debate ad nauseum, I'll probably never watch again. If this had been a Lynch art film that I saw one time, I'd be like, oh, what a fun experience. That one time we went to see it. But it's not like I would buy that on DVD or Blu-ray. It's not like I would own a digital copy of it. I'd be like, oh, that was one experience. I'm glad I had it, but I don't want to experience it again. Twin Peaks is something, as a fan from the original, who owns all the Raptor Plastics, original member of Coop, I'd be fine never seeing this episode again. So that's why I'm giving it 2 different ratings. I should mock myself for doing it, but that's
you should
I should. You
will be mocked.
So that's my thought process.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I really blame you. We've had a couple episodes this season that have been, what we've referred to as pure heroin Lynch.
Yeah.
And this is what I like to call double peyote Lynch. This was, he was throwing the kitchen sink at it. We were following Twitter a little bit, and I don't know if you want to talk about that now or get into that later. But
Let's get into that later, because just as I had these 2 incredibly different thoughts on it, Twin Peaks fans out there, and once again, the only people watching this are Twin Peaks fans, there was a wide range of opinions on it. So let's get into that at the very end.
Okay. Yeah, done. We will. I look forward to that.
All right, I want to talk real quickly in our typical pre-episode breakdown stuff, real quickly about, we record this podcast seconds after we watch the show on a Sunday night.
Yeah.
And what we've been doing is we've been trusting the credits and we've been trusting the closed captions. And on last week's show, the closed caption said, the guy came in and said, anybody seen Bing?
Right.
Sure enough, later in the week, they come out with a statement, the closed captions are wrong. He said what you thought he said. Has anybody seen Billy?
Right.
It was Bing who said it. So we had probably 5 minutes across the podcast of us trying to debate, who's Bing, what's Bing? And it was all pointless because we trusted the closed captioning. So we apologize, listeners. Hopefully you like it turned around so quick. But that actually kind of leads into the next point. Mm-hmm. July is a summer vacation month.
Yes.
And even though now, next week, we've got a break for a holiday here in the United States, the 4th of July, and there will not be a new Twin Peaks episode next week, for the rest of this month, our schedule won't be such a quick turnaround, and it's just going to be very odd. Mork, you're going to be out of town for some of these episodes. I'm going to Chicago and Atlanta for some episodes, and so I just want to
We're going to do our best, people.
We're going to do our best to turn around and be fast for you, because we love the discussion that we have with you guys, and honestly, the discussions you guys write on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. It's incredible. You guys on the YouTube channel too, on Twitter, you guys are incredible. You make it worth it. We hope we're worthy of all your wonderful feedback we've been getting.
Absolutely.
It's so great.
No, it's the best.
Because there isn't a new episode next weekend, we're going to try sometime next week to get out a feedback podcast. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot of feedback about Part 8.
Yeah, I think we'll have plenty of questions, thoughts, feelings, reactions. Yeah, I think this is actually a good time to do it.
And I wrote just kind of an extra side question, which feels silly after Part 8 just aired. But one other thing, I just want to ask you guys, I don't know how you are. I didn't own Showtime. I got Showtime specifically for Twin Peaks. And so I wanted to know, if you're out there, if you got the Showtime streaming service, if you bought a service to watch this Twin Peaks The Return, I want to know, what else are you enjoying on Showtime? What else are you doing with it?
Yeah.
Just to see how people are getting their money's worth. If you will stay subscribed to Showtime. Already on Twitter, people are already saying, we gotta go to these people. We got to push these people to renew Twin Peaks for yet another season. One of the things, to be honest, I think that could get Twin Peaks yet another season is if these subscribers that Showtime got, and they claim they got a lot of new subscribers, I believe them, But if all these subscribers immediately drop off once Twin Peaks is canceled, I almost wonder if that would be a negative because people would be thinking...
They might have to actually take back. They might have to shorten the season this year.
No.
If people cancel.
Showtime invested in Twin Peaks to get all these people to Showtimes, but then the idea is they want to convert them to Showtime viewers so that they stick around. And I wonder if a lot of people cancel their subscription service after Twin Peaks end, if that would be a negative or positive. So let us know what you think about Showtime if you're one of these people like me who just subscribe to it. What movies do you like? What shows do you like?
What a lot of people who watch a lot of Showtime would probably say about tonight's episode is this is a pretty typical episode of Ray Donovan. I don't know if you watch a lot of it, Bubba. From what I hear, this is pretty straightforward for an episode of Ray Donovan. This is just, this would probably be a little rote, a little painting by numbers if you ask a typical Ray Donovan fan. But that'll be a fun thing to chat about.
Now, once again, your feedback has been so great. When part 18 rolls around and we get to the end of this wonderful roller coaster that is Twin Peaks The Return, we're going to be giving away a lot of prizes to people who've given us written iTunes reviews and liked our Facebook page. We got a bunch of new wonderful iTunes review this week, so let's run through them more.
Oh, man. Okay, here we go. This is from Catnip Spirit, who I think deserves a Nobel Prize and a Rhodes Scholarship and also should win every lottery they buy a ticket for. The title of the review, Mork is a genius, and Bubba ain't bad either. 5 stars.
Aw.
So, Catnap Spirit.
How'd they know that? That was a secret.
President Catnap Spirit. I am voting for you. No, this is the Twin Peaks podcast you've been looking for. These guys are OG fans, and they have superb knowledge and theories, and they're swell to listen to. I plan to give the other show they review.
Does he mean the strain on our Got Your Milk podcast?
Well, he says, or she says, insert plug here. So maybe
very good, very
Got
good.
Your Milk, or...
Right, we're about to be doing Got Your Milk on July 16th, as well as Game of Thrones, the Joffrey podcast on July 16th, too.
Or anything else you want to mention, Bubba? We could plug all sorts of things. So the other show they review, a watch as soon as Twin Peaks is over. Just keep up with these guys. Oh, that is so cool. Thanks so much, Catnap.
Thank you so much. Another one from the USA iTunes Store. This is from Apple Land. And it says, thank goodness for you 5 stars. I am so happy to have this podcast. Yay! I'm a lonely Twin Peaks nerd, and I'm eternally grateful for your content and how in-depth it is. I'd love to send you guys something.
Okay, sure.
As a thank you. Wow. Well, that's all we needed, Alex. Thank you so much from Apple Land. Whoa. Yeah. Wonderful. That was from the U.S. iTunes Store. We also got some great one from our international listeners.
Here we go. Oh, this is from Simon R.J. Brake. A damn fine gift. 5 stars.
Yeah.
I love these guys and have loved this series. I love their insights and their love for the show and the actors/characters therein. The taking apart of the secret history novel has led to me getting the book. Currently listening to their review of Part 7 of The Return and so glad to see how well the episode has been received. I think this was the episode all the old fans have been waiting for, but it helped bits of the new story fall into place. Really wonderful to be watching the story unfold as part of a larger community, but these 2 guys are 2 of my favorite voices amongst that audience. Great work, guys.
You. Oh, wow. Man. That was from the UK iTunes Store. I've been to Scotland. I've been to Northern Ireland, London. My aunt lived in a town just north of Cambridge called Ely.
Oh, Ely.
And I love that. Love the UK
Shout out to Ely.
So much. Now, the next review we got was from Poland, which sadly I've not been to. Have you been to Poland, Mork?
No. I think we should go.
Amen. This is from Witold Jakubowski.
Yeah, that's actually Polish for Ray Donovan.
Top-notch Twin Peaks podcast. 5 stars. This podcast is great. If Bubba and Mork were selling golden shovels, I'd buy half a dozen.
Well, you don't actually Polish Ray Donovan.
Yeah, thank you so much.
As it happens, we are selling some.
The Gifted and
The Damned
is a deep Twin Peaks insight without dragging and bragging. Just fun and entertaining. Keep up the good work, guys. P.S. Was going for something of a double something joke, but ended up with something he likes to call a single N.
A single N?
Nothing. Oh, thank you so much. And one...
Trust us, we've been there.
One from the great country of France. I love France. Got some great steak frites just on the other side of the river from Notre Dame. Paris was wonderful. I love bragging. Have you been to Paris, Mork?
No.
In your face.
Jerry's been to Paris, though.
Oh, that's true. Aha.
France. Thank you. This is from Waldo. Another great PP podcast.
Double P?
Oh, double P. 5 stars. Long-time listener of King Joffrey podcast. So glad you're 2 Twin Peaks addicts, too. I've been waiting for this 3rd season for as long as you. Discovered the show on a French channel back in 1991.
Wow, that's awesome.
And then my obsession for Twin Peaks begins.
Cool.
Great podcast. Love the sense of humor, good jokes, and trivia about the show. Thanks for those fun moments, guys. Awesome. You're very welcome, Waldo. Thank you.
Thank you, Waldo. Oh, boy. I'm glad. Boy, to read these great reviews, now I feel bad that I rated that a 2. Maybe in our review I'll boost my 1 ranking higher, but then maybe my other ranking will go down a bit. I don't know.
I think you need to have an aggregate of 11, however you do it.
So, Mork, we start, and I guess we'll just run through how to review this. We'll start with what we can understand. So, Ray and Mr. C have broken out of prison.
Yep.
Or, I guess, been released from prison. There really wasn't too much breaking involved.
Right.
It turns out that the warden, even though he released them, he put tracking devices on the car. Mr. C, with his incredible ability with technology, I don't quite understand, but he's able to get them tracking a semi-tractor trailer that they're following. He types the license plate of the semi into his phone.
Yeah.
Claims that the tracking device is on the car.
Pretty straightforward.
That's the way it always works.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. And obviously, Mr. C knows that there are new iPhones coming out, so he just chucks his out the window when he's done assigning the truck to these crazy tracking devices that are in their car. But they keep driving.
They do. And Ray is in a tricky position here. He knows he's been hired. We had always assumed, and now it turns out to be confirmed, by Philip Jeffries to kill Cooper.
Yes.
If Cooper was still around after the infamous date that he was supposed to go back to the lodge, we're assuming. And yet he also has to make it seem to Mr. C like, hey, we're still good. How's Daria doing? How's everything going?
Right.
So Ray is in a tricky position.
And as far as we know, Ray doesn't know that Daria is dead.
No. How you would wonder how could he if he was in the prison.
Right.
But it also makes you wonder, how could Ray have gotten rid of those bullets? How could you get rid of bullets if they were in the glove compartment, you got in the car, and you drove away? Did somehow the warden...
And where did he get a gun?
Great question.
Yeah.
Maybe Warden Murphy's like, all right, I'm going to release you. Kill this mofo.
Right. Well, if Philip Jeffries somehow knew the whole deal with Mr. Strawberry...
Oh, good call, good call.
The warden was... Mr. C was... and this is actually the first time, I just noticed it, that Ray calls Mr. C Mr. Cooper.
So he does know his full name,
right? He does know his full name, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. So, but Mr. C was kind of blackmailing the warden into releasing him because of Mr. Strawberry. So maybe, I don't know if it's safe to assume, but it's a possibility that Philip Jeffries also knew about this and worked out a deal with the warden to give...
No, I think that's a great...
an empty gun to one guy and a loaded gun to the other guy. To Mr. C, and then to a loaded gun to Ray, of course. As they're driving along, this is one thing that was such a big part of the initial series and a lot of Lynch's work in general.
Oh yeah, I feel like I've seen these type of shots of the headlight driving down a road, and all you really see are the headlights and barely anything deep into the road.
Right,
and Mork, you joked during the episode, "Turn on your high beams, Ray."
Well, I was getting a little scared, but it's just the kind of thing. It's an everyday thing, and he shoots it, and he doesn't do anything particularly stylish to it. But because we know what's going on in the car, there is something really evocative, really tense about this, and I am sleeping over tonight, Bubba. I am not. I cannot drive home alone. This was great, and this is pretty spooky.
Now, what did you think of? Did Ray plan for this standoff to happen when he says, "Hey, I got to take a leak"? It feels like Mr. C knows has a place of where he wants them to go.
Right.
Ray is like, okay, now that we're down this dirt road part of it, let me get out and take a leak. It didn't seem too logical, but...
Well, I'm guessing that this was part of the trick. If he knew that there was a gun, an empty gun in the glove box...
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
And he actually says, it tricked you or something like that.
Yeah, that was
I'm guessing.
This is a good way to not shoot him in the car so you have blood all over the car. Yeah, get rid of him. I like that. That's a smart call.
So just so you know in advance, our next road trip, if you ever get out of the car to take a leak, I'm just going to keep driving. I'll be driving for my life.
Oh, no. Now, Mr. C, when he pulls his friend in the glove compartment out, he actually looks, and there are bullets in it, but apparently they're blanks. This is a complex.
Well, even if they're not really blanks, because a blank would at least make a sound. It was just clicking when Mr. C was firing. It
So
clicks a couple
these
of
are
times.
dummies then? What is happening with this revolver then?
I'm not clear. I'm not clear on it exactly. I don't know how Jeffries could have put... It takes Mr. C a couple of shots to realize that nothing is happening, which I don't really associate Mr. Cooper with being caught off guard, but he is caught off guard.
Never. That is a great point. Mr. C, the only time you would even say up to this point he had been caught off guard, yet you feel like he knew it was coming when he was driving down the road, and then suddenly he sees the images of, turned out to be third doppelganger, Dougie Jones, in the Red Room, and then he feels being pulled toward the cigarette lighter and turned the car over. That was the only time Mr. C really wasn't in control.
Yeah, exactly. And
so for him to turn around and get shot like this, call me crazy, it's almost like a mirror of Cooper getting shot at the end of season 1.
Oh, yeah.
Where in both cases they got shot, but it doesn't seem to have had lasting effects.
I am glad. For a minute, I didn't really think that he was going to be a goner, but I was very glad to see it come right away that, he's going to get some help from maybe a strange place, but he's getting some help from somewhere, and I was glad just because I love Mr. C, and I want to see more of him.
I guess I love that part, Mork, but I also love the fact that the show can surprise me and actually have someone getting the drop on Mr. C. The fact that Ray, who we would imagine is just some sort of 2-bit thug hoodlum.
I'll give him 2.5 bits.
2.5-bit hoodlum. Yeah. The fact that he could get the drop on Mr. C, because Mr. C, like you said, he's always been in control. He always knows everything. In this part 2, where he goes to Bill Hastings' house, and he's like, this is the lawyer's gun, and he shoots Bill Hastings' wife. He's in such control, he can find out anything. He can find out top secrets about Warden Murphy.
Right.
And so I loved the twist of him really being shot.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine he would actually stay dead either, but I loved it.
Right. No, I did as well. I'm not going to give the 2.5. I'm only going to give him an extra half bit.
I'll give him a bit, man.
Okay, he's a 3-bit hoodlum. I don't think this is really Ray's doing. I think it's Philip Jeffries.
Who plotted this all out, is what you're supposing,
Yeah.
But then as soon as these, I call them wraiths, we've been calling them the soot spirits, the double S's, the soot spirits, because it seems like they're covered in soot or something or other. Now it may be nuclear fallout ash, or
that's a good call. Yeah,
what it could possibly be from the convenience store crew. I want to call these woodmen.
Right.
And so when they came out and they're dancing around, and Ray, you freak out a little less demonstratively than I would. Like if I saw this. Yeah. Oh Lord, I would be running like hell.
I would just blow my brains out. I would not even. I'd be like, "See ya, I am out of here." Yeah, it is. We don't know exactly what's going on. We do know for sure that none of these former coal miners or convenience store crew, the CSC we'll call them, clearly none of them graduated from nursing school.
Or did they? Like at first,
just not one that any of us could attend.
I saw them spreading stuff across Cooper, and I thought, maybe they're trying to cover him with soot like they are, or dirt like they are. But I'm pretty sure they're just covering him with blood from the bullet wound. I think it's tough because there isn't much color in this shot, but I think they're just covering him with his own blood.
Well, in his stomach, they're spreading that all around. So the wound, they're really getting into the wound. I don't know if Mr. C is planning on keeping that shirt, but he better just throw it out now. That's 2 or 3 of those shouted out sticks. That's a lot of bleach right there he'll have to use. So I hope Mr. Coop just throws out that shirt and gets a new one. For gosh sakes, it's not worth the effort.
Well, Mr. Coop, he may not know much about Ray's plans, and I'm not sure he knows much about birthing babies, but he apparently knows something about birthing Bobs.
Birthing Bobs.
Because this was just another moment that kind of blew me away, this blob. Is it a balloon, a blob?
It's some kind of, it's just some kind of membrane. It's maybe an egg.
That's a good call. That's a good call. A Bob blob.
A Bob blob. A Bob blob. That's exactly what it is. And I couldn't actually tell who it was. At first, it looked like I thought it was Coop. I thought it was another Coop coming out.
No,
he's regenerating.
Well, it's not a great image because he's turned on his side and stuff, but I recognize that smile from the late, great, wonderful Frank Silva so much. And so, like at this point of the episode, I was so high. I was like, holy smokes, here we go. I can't wait. And these convenience store crew, let's just keep calling them the convenience store crew.
Yeah.
They're dancing around him. This excited me. This got me thinking. This felt like everything was great. And then it cuts to a scene once again. Ray, I got to give Ray some credit.
Okay.
In this case, just like me. Well, I think he's dead.
Yeah.
He found some help. Ray, you're really kind of underselling it right now. This is Ray trying to minimize. He wants that money so much.
He seems to recognize that he's in a little over his head.
A little, yes.
You know, he's definitely switched allegiances to Jeffries, and he's gonna be pretty upfront about it. I think one of the questions is, you know, with everything. Here's my question for you, Bubba.
Sure.
With everything, if Jeffries is able to outsmart Mr. C from afar, from Argentina, or wherever the heck he is.
From another dimension.
Yeah, so we don't know exactly where Jeffries is doing all this stuff, but he's clearly behind it. He clearly is some sort of nemesis to our friend Mr. C. Why wouldn't he see the convenience store crew coming out to help him? Why, you know, I mean, wouldn't you think that just shooting this guy who's is also from another dimension, maybe having a 2 or even a 3-bit hoodlum, just pop him a couple times in the stomach, would that really be enough to kill Mr. C? And wouldn't Jeffries know that?
Boy,
we'll find out.
I love that you're throwing Jeffries under the bus. You saw what he did tonight. Don't upset Jeffries, Mork. You don't know what he's going to do.
Clearly, that was Bubba's idea.
Why are you talking trash about me, Mork?
Bubba lives at 1, 2, 3.
Hey, wait, no, okay.
No, but so that's that. I'm curious to see that. I guess I'd put it to you this way. I'm curious to see if that question gets resolved. I don't really think it needs to be answered in as much as explained how this actually happened.
Right.
But if Mr. C and Philip Jeffries somehow get to go mano a mano, I'm looking forward to that.
Now, looking at this story going forward, and boy, after tonight's episode, don't you feel stupid saying that. But Ray implies, he goes, okay, I'm going to the place. We assume it's maybe the farm. He says, Cooper, Mr. C knows where I'm going, so if he's not dead, he's going to come. He's going to show up again, and then Ray says, I'll just kill him again.
Right.
Good luck, Ray. Ray, don't you think if you couldn't succeed this time...
Well, let's give it to Ray. Maybe that's how he earned that extra bit of being a hoodlum.
The 2.5-bit hoodlum.
Maybe that's where he earned it because, he's certainly doesn't seem to be too phased. I think I would call Ray nonplussed by this whole situation. He's just So okay, I shot the guy in the stomach. The convenience store crew came out of the woods and somehow started patting the dirt surrounding him. I ran away, and you know what? I'll just try to kill him again. That's no problem.
Well, Ray, let me say,
his moxie.
You know, when you're talking to your boss, sometimes you do leave facts out. What you just described, Mork, Ray never said, oh yeah, by the way, I ran away.
That is
I
true.
turned tail and ran. You were implying like he was being completely honest with Jeffries. Instead, it was more like, I think he's dead. Yeah, me did good. Ray, good kill person.
Oh, good kid, Ray. Good kid.
Ray is the James of the series.
At this point, he's my nominee for James.
So next we go for a over 4-minute music video of Nine Inch Nails playing at the Roadhouse.
Now let me say,
let me say
good get for Jean-Michel Renaud.
The jokes on Twitter were saying, there are a lot of things in this episode that aren't believable, but the least believable is that Nine Inch Nails are playing at Twin Peaks Roadhouse.
Right. It was a little fourth wall, and for me, because they played this entire song, which was pretty creepy, and you are sort of thinking about the lyrics, she's gone, it's away, he's sort of laughing, he's saying the word away, so it's like, okay, Lynch is obviously, this is intentional.
Oh, yeah, no, everything's intentional.
So, however... It was 4 minutes of kind of watching this. Right. And for me, this is what really dragged the show into... If they just would have skipped this and gone into the other stuff...
Right.
This slowed down the momentum a lot for me. Because this, before that, we were on such a high.
I was too. And I guess, to be honest, I do like Nine Inch Nails okay. I don't own any of their albums, but, I like them okay. I have some friends who just love them. But... Showtime, boy, maybe you should keep Showtime, people. They have given Lynch complete freedom to do whatever he wants. And if he wants to show Nine Inch Nails, and I saw online a lot of people love Nine Inch Nails. They thought this was incredible. They're like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever. If it's okay for me to say, as a Twin Peaks fan, well, I like Nine Inch Nails all right, but
Well,
to
maybe-
spend over 4 minutes with them rather than any other Twin Peaks character that I love,
Well, considering how little other Showtime shows we watch, maybe Nine Inch Nails is in every episode of every show that they do. This week on Shameless.
right?
This week on The Liars Club.
Yeah,
or-
Homeland is supposed to be great. I haven't
Homeland.
watched Homeland, but yeah, Homeland. They're terrible terrorists attacking the United States.
Double-
But first, Trent Reznor.
Trent Reznor and Nine Inch
After that music video, we're back to this dirt road. Mr. C sits up. He's okay. Now, one thing we don't know, and call me crazy for being so interested in quote-unquote plot story parts of this, but do you imagine when Mr. C sits back up and is not dead, or however you want to describe his state of being, do you think that Bob is still with him, the Blob, or was he stolen by the convenience store crew?
Oh, that is a great call. I mean, it's hard to say because I don't really understand.
No, when I say it's hard to say, yes, no, it's
that
incredible.
relationship. I think it's fair to say. I'm going to say that he's still with him.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say that he's still with him, and maybe that's part of what kept Mr. C alive.
All right.
So,
Okay.
Bob wanted to keep using the host, but it does bring up, initially a little while ago when I think it was 2 episodes ago when Mr. C was checking himself out
In the mirror. Yeah, the prison.
and Bob's face kind of came into
Superimposed over his, it felt like.
So when he said, "Good, you're still with me," and I was yakking and going on and on about how much Mr. C's not really deferring to Bob. He's talking to him like he's an equal. So I wonder if that ever was the case. I'm just curious about. Okay, well, how is this going to change that dynamic? How much more of that we're going to see? I don't know. But we don't go forward in time. We actually go back in time a good 70 years.
And this is something that I thought the show would do a lot more of, considering we spent 5 podcasts covering Mark Frost's The Secret History of Twin Peaks. I thought we would be jumping around in time an awful lot of, because that book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks, covers so much of time and jumps around. That book covers sections in New Mexico. Now, everybody should read it, listen to our podcast about it. Dougie Milford, the main character of the book. Oh, wait, that's kind of almost the main character, one of the main characters of the book.
People know we spoil everything.
He spent time in what you would call Project Blue Book, and before it, Project Sign, investigating these mysterious phenomenon around the world. And sure enough, he spent time in New Mexico when the Roswell alien crash people talk about happened. This, July 16th, 1945, it looks like we're here for an atomic test. I actually liked this a whole lot in the moment. As it just kind of kept going and never ended.
Yeah, which moment did you like?
I love this. I think this
the
is
first one moment? Or...
This is a beautiful blast. This is a beautiful looking blast. I love how this is shot. I love how this comes together.
Well, no,
this
I thought it was
this moment
shot.
was beautiful. And people always talk about Lynch being a painter, and so even though I love stories and I love narrative, let's just talk about this as a painting. What does this make you think? How does this make you feel when, on July 16th, 1945, the atom bomb was first successfully tested as part of the Manhattan Project?
Right. Just a couple things about it, and everyone at this point, I'm guessing, has seen it, but a couple things that I really liked about it, just from a visual perspective, were, one, I don't remember seeing a lot of mushroom clouds. They're zooming in so slowly, and the mushroom cloud doesn't seem to be moving so much as we're zooming into it. And then he starts to do some interesting things where it feels like, I'm guessing this show was not shot on film, but all of a sudden we're looking at, and maybe, I don't know if we're looking at actual test footage, I don't know, but film with all the little grain and the little flecks. And I obviously didn't know this as it's playing, but it definitely, we saw, because we watch with the closed captioning on, as our aired last week confirmed. But there was a song that was basically sort of a tribute to the victims of Hiroshima, which obviously this led to the successful testing of the nuclear bomb. So that definitely puts you in a different kind of state of mind. But I thought it was just beautiful. I was also thinking a little bit about some of the paintings or the photographs in Gordon's office.
Right. So how much does Gordon Cole know again? That was something you kept saying. Maybe he might even be evil, you would say.
Well, I don't know, evil, but adversarial. I think there's something, he's hiding, or he's not telling the people who need to know it. So, but we're zooming in, and it's just
it's beautiful,
it's stunning, and it's gorgeous, and it's terrifying.
Let me go ahead and just, if you know us, you know we're not 100% fans of Wikipedia, but I want to read this. Trinity. Trinity was the code name for the first detonation of a nuclear weapon. It was conducted by the United States Army at 5:29 a.m. on July 16, 1945, as part of the Manhattan Project. The test was conducted about 35 miles southeast of Socorro, New Mexico, as part of the USAAF Alamo Gordo bombing and gunnery range, which is now part of the White Sands Missile Range. And so this is it. Mm-hmm. And then, as we zoom into the bomb, we end up in parts that you were saying might be the nothingness that we've experienced before.
Yeah, that we saw when we saw Old Coop get in a fight with the doppelganger tree sponsored by T-Mobile and fall through the floor and into the nothingness for a little bit before he ultimately came out of the radio.
Well, a lot of these images we're going to see in this next montage do call back to that previous episode, part 3.
Yeah.
And very similar imagery. And so I did think of nothingness. I did just think of how earth-shattering this must have been. Think of it, to suddenly test an atomic bomb. Not only is it visually beautiful, the sound is crazy. My mind starts thinking about what this must have been like to be there and experience that. And we're seeing shots of fire walk with me, flames going everywhere. And without question, this feels to me a bit like 2001.
Oh, yeah.
We are traveling across space and time. We're seeing some of these pink clouds, and when Cooper fell through the nothingness, there was that shot of the pink billowing clouds there for a bit, the purple clouds, you would almost call them. And it's just psychedelic, for lack of a better word.
No, it's gorgeous.
It suddenly cuts to what you would assume is a New Mexico gas station convenience store. Did they even have the term convenience store back in 1945? Is this 1945? I'm not sure we can even say that.
It's fair to assume, but obviously, it brings up some of the mythology.
Right, and some of the images, once again, we saw from part 3. So when you talk about mythology, in Cooper's original Dream, way back when, and it was actually in the European version of the pilot.
Yeah.
Mike saying we lived above a convenience store. Now, originally, that convenience store tied into the Laura Palmer murder mystery. If that's where the Lydecker Animal Clinic was, where Waldo, the minor bird, was kept at. Fire Walk With Me said, wait, no. There's a convenience store in Seattle.
Right.
And even hints that it's tied to this Judy person. But no, here's yet another gas station and convenience store.
Well, maybe they lived extremely... There's no roof on the convenience store.
There's no room above this.
They're coming down from another dimension or the heavens,
sure,
so
okay,
maybe that's what they mean by living above the convenience store. But yeah, so our guys...
We see these... We're going to refer to these guys, the convenience store crews, occasionally as woodsmen.
Right.
Woodmen. In Fire Walk With Me, in that infamous scene in the room above a convenience store, there were woodmen there. And there was the electricity. This is having the staticky time effect, like part 3 did when Cooper entered that room with the woman with no eyes, had a stuttering and kind of back and forth time effect.
Yeah.
The smoke comes in and out of this gas station at times, and so...
At times it looks like the file got corrupted.
Trying to place these images together, I thought, well, were these poor guys affected by this explosion? But, of course, you wouldn't really have woodmen, I wouldn't think, down in New Mexico. I've been around there. There aren't really many trees, but...
Because the woodsmen were so successful. No, well, one thing, and this is kind of my... I guess this is something I didn't like about this section of this episode, and just in regards to a lot of what we learned in Mark Frost's book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks. I'm assuming this is all happening in or around New Mexico, because that's exactly where this nuclear blast took place. Now, this could be what we're seeing. It's not clearly defined, so it could be up in the either eastern or western part of Washington State. However, a lot of what the book talks about is going back to Lewis and Clark and then Nez Pierce. It's really based...
Well, the beginning part of the book, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, well, you're right. You're right. But so much of it is centered around that very special geographical location.
True, but the book, to counterbalance that, Mork, I would say that when I read the book, I took it to mean that there are occasionally other special spots entrances, Glastonbury Grove's entrances to this netherworld.
No, I hear you. And then I don't know exactly where we go.
Well, we cut from this, just following this dreamlike logic. So there's been a nuclear blast, atoms and fire and galaxies and nothingness has all been created, destroyed, instigated. It's having an effect on the convenience store crew, the woodmen. Mm-hmm. Then in another area of time, space, dimension, what I want to call the glass box monster.
Yeah, that was a good call.
I'm saying she because she has, I guess, some female features. I'm just describing an idea. This is obvious. There's no right or wrong of this. It's like she coughs up Garmonbosia,
right,
which includes our boy Bob. Did the nuclear bomb in some ways allow Bob to enter this world, this dimension, this?
Well, yeah. I think I feel like this is what they're trying to say. And one thing, I did also at first think it was Garmonbosia, but
these eggs,
they're eggs, and then we see one of the eggs hatching later on,
right.
And it looks like there's dozens, if not hundreds, of these eggs
coming out of the monster, the mom.
Coming out of
When Cooper was in that room in part 3, when Cooper was coming out of that room in part 3, the woman said, "Be careful, my mother's coming."
Right.
And so, yes, we see this woman releasing all these eggs, what you would say, and one of them is Bob.
Yeah, I refer to this section as Meet Bob's Mom. So he's floating down, or they're floating out, or we're not sure exactly where they are. Obviously, what we see, we see Bob in that membrane, just like we saw before. We see the egg that we're going to see hatch later on, and then we're back inside of the flames and the fire. And what comes out, Bubba? But
gold,
baby.
Infuse the machine with gold is a saying that Lynch has been around for a lot. This gold kind of blob. To me, did Dougie become a gold blob? Dougie Jones, meaning the guy who got pulled into the Black Lodge, then his head blew up in a black flame of smoke. So many of the images, when I talk about 2001, so many of the images are like that. Why? Because they're flying towards the camera, flying through space and time. At a certain point, we're over what looks like an ocean. I mentioned in part 3 that it's not probably an ocean. There's no stars in the sky. Cooper landed on that balcony, then went into the infamous room where time behaved oddly. Here, we're flying over this ocean, and I joked that we're going to this island in the middle of the sea, where if we land on this island, we'll be next to Dumbledore and Harry and be able to see where Voldemort put the final couple of Horcruxes.
Yeah, no, and actually as we're going up, I was thinking, as we go up, there's the structure. There's clearly it's a rock at first. It's it's an old volcano or something that's coming out of the sea. But at the top of it, it's a building, and part of it kind of looks like a giant Cylon. So I got a little excited for a minute as a somewhat fan of Battlestar Galactica. So
this to me, I guess it's not the same place, but it feels like another structure similarly to where Cooper landed on that balcony, saw the ocean waves, then went inside, and got involved. And so, once again, this is another dimension, or aliens, however you want to take it. I'm willing to bet that this truly won't be explained. I'm actually fine with it not being explained. Oh, yeah. Personally, I'd also like some story as well, something that I can follow with this. Like, I like this, but give me the Twin Peaks I love. Inside this place, it's like an old theater. Many of these, you want to call them electricity devices that we saw on top of the Cooper space station before. Right. They're spread out throughout this theater. We have the phonograph, which we saw in the very first episode again, and we have a woman who in the credits. How is she listed again? Do you remember?
Senorita Dido or something like that.
Yeah, Senorita Dido.
That's her name, Senorita Dido.
She's sitting here, and I should point out, we get into this room at the 30-minute mark. So this is the halfway point in this
of the episode.
Very special episode. Is she sitting here? She's hanging out. She's watching. Is she pregnant? This is, boy, I got to be careful.
I don't
say this.
I don't think she is. No.
Well,
she could be. I don't think she is, and I think
right. There are reasons why she might get children other ways. And who shows up? It's the question mark. We call him the Giant, but in the
yeah.
credits, he's listed as a question mark.
And he comes out. He doesn't walk. So the old time Doctor Who,
the electricity device, yes.
Well, yeah, the electricity device. So you can see he doesn't come, from the other side of it. So he seems to come from behind it, or he's come from out of it. And one thing that I just want to say, in terms of a lot of what was going on, I really did enjoy. I mean, the reason why I gave it only 7 double Bs was it was so slow at times. We talk about how slow the first episode of season 2, where the old waiter, often who is sort of like
Senior Drool Cup,
takes to help out Cooper, and people turned off because of it. Well, maybe this is where he gets it, because the Giant is lumbering around, and the one thing, you see the look on his face, and he's very, very distraught. And for me, I don't know about you, Bubba, but for me, what I was thinking about is, the one thing that he was always saying throughout the original season 1 and season 2 was, "It's happening again." And when you look at, you could see, for me,
right.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. It has happened again.
Well, the one thing I would say is, I didn't take when he said it was happening again. To me, he almost felt emotionless at times when he said this.
Yeah.
The image that he makes, the face, he's not happy.
Looks upset.
Yeah, he looks upset with what happened. Maybe he's upset that man is doing these atomic tests and blowing things up. Who's to say? The electronic Doctor Who device on top of the space station had a big lever that they pulled down and switched. Mm-hmm. Here, the Giant just presses a button and gets rid of the problems. He walks through, once again, what feels like an old-timey Hollywood theater.
Yeah, there's another
device on the stage at the theater, right? Electronic Doctor Who device.
And that takes about 5 minutes for him to sort of lumber over there, and we're watching him watch this stuff. And he's watching the atomic blast, and then he gets a little bit of the same treatment that we got in terms of our convenience store crew. And obviously, I'm hoping he has a clearer idea of what's happening than we do. I don't know.
Right.
I'm sure a lot of our double Ls felt exactly how the Giant did. But
he's watching what we're watching. He watched the glass box monster barf out a lot of eggs, and this one that included Bob, and that puts him into action. He decides, I'm going to float up. Watch this. I'm going to float up.
I'm canceling Showtime, and I'm going to float up.
Right, he floats up. He releases this golden spirit from him. Some people online were pitching, is this golden spirit releasing from him a bit like the tragic boy who was killed in the hit and run? The gold spirit floated away from him.
Okay, yeah, that's a good call.
And so these electronic TARDISes are everywhere you can see. Senorita Dido comes. She's got a spotlight on her.
Yeah, and someone is following her. The spotlight is moving. So there's someone
else. Well, you remember
there.
On the old show, when these spirits would show up, they would show up in a spotlight. They would hit a spotlight on Cooper, too.
No, you're totally right.
So she goes, and she sees Bob, and this is not good, Bob. How do you say this? This is not good, Bob. And the Giant, let's call him rather than question marks, he has this gold stuff come out of him. And then he kind of gives birth. And how is this possible? He gives birth to Laura Palmer.
Yeah, she's in at first I thought it was gold, but it actually is more of an amber kind of a orb, and settles down. And
she floats down to Senorita Dido.
Who gives it a little kiss.
Right.
That's very nice.
Who is happy about this. It's almost like if an evil entity like Bob is going to be released out into the world, it almost is like we need an equal measure. You need the yin and the yang. You need that. You had the bad and Bob released out into the world through the mouth of the mother. And so now, kind of out of the mouth of the Giant, we have to have something good.
Well, it certainly, I mean, from that analogy, it raises a lot of questions, because we obviously know what happens to Laura. So what I'm trying to figure out is, before she gets released into the pneumatic space tubes.
Or the upside down saxophone here.
Yeah. So is this in terms of when earlier in the season when we saw good old Leland inside the Red Room, and he's asking Coop to go find Laura. So is this where Laura has been, inside the Giant? I don't know exactly what that means.
Or does she come out of the tube and then get released into old black and white serial footage of Earth.
Of Earth. And so this was something that I was thinking about as we're watching it. So we see this very, it's not the most detailed vision of our lovely blue planet.
Right.
But it does bring to mind, well, what other planets are these guys dealing with if they have to sort of
They got to
aim
deal
it?
with a lot. They got to deal with a lot.
Yeah.
So the bubble featuring Laura heads down. Generally, it's not too close, but you assume possibly towards the Pacific Northwest.
Right, it's trending that.
That reminds you so much of 2001 once again. In the novel 2001, which the movie is based on, that's the star child. That's the next evolution of man shows up above Earth, and that's where it's getting you to. But first, Mork, we got to go forward 11 years to 1956, August 5th, the New Mexico desert. I want to point out that because we turn around and do this podcast so quick, there's a chance that this is an important date in Mark Frost's The Secret History of Twin Peaks. We don't exactly have time to scour the wonderful novel for it right now.
Do we know if there was another nuclear test on that day? Maybe a hydrogen bomb
All right,
or
well,
something
let's
like
test.
that?
It was August, what was it again?
August 5th, 1956.
All right, so let's look. So I'm on a website entitled Take Me Back To, and on Take Me Back To, Sunday, August 5th, 1956, President was Eisenhower.
Okay.
People born on that day include two people I've never heard of. The top 5 hit at the time was Whatever Will Be, Will Be. Que Sera, Sera by Doris Day.
Maybe that's what caused that egg to hatch and that owl thing.
So what do we want to call this hideous creature that releases from this egg? Mork, do you want to christen this a name since we're the first podcast?
I'm going to say double F.
Double F.
FrogFly.
The FrogFly. I like that. That's pretty darn good. So the FrogFly is released out into the world. That is not a good sign. And for the rest of the episode, it's generally a 1950s It Came From Outer Space monster movie, which is kind of cool in a way.
Which is pretty cool, yeah, which is definitely pretty cool. And well, as our young lovers are strolling towards us from behind, there's nothing I'd rather...
They were at their own gas station convenience store.
Right. There's nothing I'd rather want my 12 or 13-year-old daughter to go do on a Friday night than go hang out behind a convenience store and then just wander home.
Things were different back in the 50s, Mork.
You're totally right. You're totally right.
Here, let's say they're 16. She's like 2 years away from getting married. And she found a lucky penny. So
you're right. This was her lucky night.
Up until the double M, the mouth monster, crawled in, she was having a great time.
So is it safe to assume, I'm making the assumption, I'm taking the leap that our double F, our double M, is actually the owl-like creature that we get to know throughout... Well, actually,
Mork, you're confusing me. Do me a favor. Just say it plainly. Like, are you saying this woman who has the monster inside her, this little girl who has the monster inside her now, is going to become the glass box monster?
Oh, no, not the glass box monster, but the owl creature that's in the woods who attacks Carl Rod and the log lady and all that. I don't think those dates line up exactly. It could be. We'd have to maybe study it. We have the Boy Scout report from the book, or the Cub Scout letter report that... And then also the hospital stuff when the kids got into the hospital, Carl Rod and the log lady. So they're enjoying their date.
They're enjoying their date out in the middle of the desert, possibly where the nuclear blast was tested. It's all these years later.
Right.
We see what we call one of the convenience store crew, one of the darkened men.
Yeah.
They float down to Earth, and they haven't heard about lung cancer yet because they need a light.
They need a light.
When we predicted who was going to say need a light, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have guessed the convenience store crew.
Right.
I guessed Audrey would say it. Boy, that was a...
Oh, man.
I'm hoping Audrey isn't part of this team.
I hope so, too. That would have been so great.
And this is a 1950s horror film we're in here. These poor people driving along the side of the road when out come the convenience store crew crossing the road.
They're just
wandering. Not caring. Why do you think they want a light so much? Fire, walk with me. Is that what it is? They need fire, walk with me?
I don't know. I mean, it could be just one of those things that sometimes when you see these monster movies or these, sort of possession movies, and it's actually, this is very similar to how Dougie Coop acts, where he doesn't really know how to talk. He's just sort of repeating things that other people said. So maybe, in this guy, I like to think of him as the closest we'll ever get to a young Carl Rod.
This first woodman.
The first woodsman, yeah. Well, and the main guy who gets his hands really dirty. So he's asking for a light. These folks, this couple,
they escape, don't they? I'm down with
much
them.
Better.
Yeah.
They fare much better than the other folks. And the one thing I was thinking about as we're watching this and we hear this very deep "got a light," we see the driver's wife is screaming.
Right.
But what we're hearing is sort of a slowed down, like a very low. And that reminded me a little bit of when Mr. C is in the interrogation booth and he's saying hello, and his voice is really slowed down. I don't know if it's connected. It just reminded me of that.
I could see it. It's thematically similar. And once again, if I'm tough on this being an episode of Twin Peaks, this is actually very good take on a 50s monster movie.
Oh, yeah. No, it's great. They're having their little moment.
Mork, I want to get to something, and it's something I haven't really felt comfortable talking about a lot so far on the Gifted
And the Damned
podcast, but that is, on the original show, many terrible things sometimes happen to women.
Mm-hmm.
And when the date was splitting up right now, she was home, but the boyfriend was walking out across the way. I thought, oh no, this boyfriend's dead.
Oh, yeah.
But yet another terrible thing, and she's the one.
Yeah.
She's the one who gets the fly frog in her. And so,
right.
Just how terrible is this?
It is terrible, and it does... Okay, so why did the monster crawl in there? Only because of... And we're sort of skipping ahead a little bit. So let's you want to get to it?
Let's get to it.
Okay, we'll get to it. But so he walks off, and what I was actually thinking when I was watching this kid is, good looking, good kid.
The
Not
guy
James.
or the girl? What do you?
Oh, the guy. Yeah, the guy. He's a good kid. He's not James, but he's a good kid. So, but what I was thinking is he could be. He sort of resembled maybe a young Frank Silva, the actor who plays Bob. So maybe there's some sort of connection to, we have the girl being infected. Maybe we'll see this kid be affected and turn into Bob. I don't know if that really tracks. Chronologically, it doesn't track with Leland. By the time that this guy turns into Frank Silva, then Leland would be in his late 50s.
I didn't take it that way, Mork, mainly because the mom monster who barfed out all these eggs also had one that looked like Bob already.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And so I didn't think this guy would get it. But when this bug crawled into her room, I got so afraid.
Yeah.
And then when you see her unnaturally open her mouth that wide, oh, my Lord. This thing is looking for a host. The FrogFly is looking for a host. This is terrible.
Right.
Oh.
And while this happens, and the whole time we've got young Carl Rod.
He's not young Carl Rod. He's a convenience store crew.
He's the convenience store he's the chief woodsman.
Do you think the one who went to the radio station is the chief one, or
if that guy's not in charge, I don't know who is. Like, I don't want to say if that guy's not in charge, I don't want to meet the guy who is, because this guy, he just walks into the radio station.
Oh yeah, kills the receptionist, you assume?
Crushes her skull.
Oh.
Walks into the DJ booth. This is the slowest, least interesting rap of all time. But he's talking about...
Yeah, what's his catchphrase? Let's hear it. Do you want to say it?
This is the water.
This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full and descend. His other great catchphrase is, the horse is the white of the eyes and the dark within. So is this trying to tell us the white horse that we've seen throughout Twin Peaks is the white of the eyes and the dark within? So many people had predicted that white horse was like the pale horse of death. People had predicted it was heroin because Leland was somehow drugging poor Sarah when he abused. People said maybe it's the Silver Mustang Casino. But now, according to this convenience store guy, convenience store crew, the horse is the white of the eyes and the dark within.
That was actually my second theory for what the white horse meant in the show. I don't know. But as he's taken over the radio station, he's done what I typically do in these podcasts, where I just take the microphone and I just talk until people collapse. But he's crushing a guy's skull. The waitress at the diner, she collapses.
A guy collapsed who was working on a car.
And then the young girl collapses, and that's when our giant
fly
larva,
frog, the fly frog climbs into her.
Right.
So many people have said this little town has such a Twin Peaks feel. Where we never saw the Twin Peaks radio station. There was no KPJK.
Dr.
Twin
Amp
Peaks.
doesn't do
Dr.
radio.
Amp, yeah, exactly. But it has a diner, just like the Double R has a diner. It has a
Big Ed's Gas Farm. It's got a gas station.
Right.
Yeah, it's very, very
This
similar.
small town feel.
And that definitely lines up with, okay, so maybe that's how, I guess, some of the original bad things went down many years ago, because that Twin Peaks did feel like it was a special place. But as they talk about so much in the show, the erstwhile Sheriff Truman, where it's a special place, but there's also a darkness in the woods. So maybe it needed that kind of innocence for these convenience store crew to come out. But he finishes. He says what he's going to say. He finishes it, and then he doesn't drop the mic, but he drops this guy's skull. He just crushes this poor guy. It is pretty terrifying, and then he just walks off into the night. And
No, it was a mic drop. Give him some credit.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, it was. I would not want to see him try to outdo that. It was bloody, and it reminded me of a little bit, just in terms of the pure gore aspect of it. In episode, I don't know if it's episode 1 or 2, but where the monster, where Bob's mom shows up,
Right.
breaks through the box, and then destroys those poor young kids. So what I was going to ask is, just like that happened when there was a little bit of romance in the air. In this moment, there's a sweet innocent kiss. There's a little bit of romance in the air. So is that what attracts these monsters?
Boy,
why did
that's heartbreaking if true? Could be, but could totally be.
why did FrogFly go there? I guess what attracted the FrogFly to this girl's house? Maybe if it was the closest, it was the closest. Okay, but was there something else about that moment that they had where it really seemed like it was her first kiss?
Yeah, good point.
That that may have led to something far, far worse. So no kissing, kids. Don't ever do that.
So that was it. The convenience store crew, they wander off. Are they in the present timeline, 2014? Mm-hmm. They appeared as like wraiths, as like ghosts to Ray.
Right.
But in this timeline, back in 1956, it felt like they were actual corporal beings.
Right. Yeah. They can obviously touch people for sure. So they have a much more physical presence, and I mean, I don't know. I can make something up, but I have no idea why. What the difference is.
The one thing that the secret history of Twin Peaks though implies is that this has been around forever. Now, admittedly, these beings can seemingly jump through time and space, and so it's a trip. As a mini movie, this was very effective.
Right.
I want to get back to why I had 2 ratings and why I went down to a 2 on one of them. People have been asking us, loyal listeners have been asking us, and I assume they're asking themselves. I assume, listeners, you're asking yourself, well, how much needed to be explained? And we never said, oh, show us how Bob was born from a space monster throw-up or whatever.
Yeah.
We never asked for that. I feel like that this was so removed from any other part of the show, it feels like maybe it'll tie back in. Maybe this young girl who's maybe 16 in 1956, maybe she's going to be an old woman that we'll meet later on. But it felt like I didn't really need any of this stuff explained. I wanted to maybe know some of their wants and needs, but I didn't need to know, it's partially tied to electricity, to power of a atomic blast, to flames. And so I don't know if I needed any of this. While it was a fun trip the first time through, once again, I'm just going to be honest. This isn't the type of stuff that appeals to me.
Right.
I don't own any 1950 horror films.
Not
yet. Right. Well, I guess once I buy the Twin Peaks: The Return Blu-ray, yes, I will. But
well, I hear you, and it's sort of talking about it. I don't believe in going back and revising ratings, but after talking about it, I actually enjoyed it more. I would probably bump up, and it's definitely. I don't think there's going to be any. I don't think it's going to tie in directly or easily into everything else that we're seeing. But I really enjoyed that we did spend some time in the past, just like the book does such a great job of doing. So I enjoyed that. I'm curious about some of maybe the discrepancies, because one of the things that we talked about in the book, and even the first episode where we start off in Twin Peaks, but then we go to New York City.
Right.
So a lot of what we just saw, this monster movie, took place, it really feels like, in New Mexico.
Yes,
which
correct.
For me is obviously not near Eastern or Western Washington State. So for me, that's a quibble, but I don't want to see 10 more of these.
Okay.
But I'm glad, I don't. We have 18 hours. And
That's true.
So we have 18 hours. It's an
Right. It was
18-hour
originally
movie.
supposed to be 9 hours. It's ballooned to this 18-hour
Right.
roller coaster ride.
I'm okay. I'm okay with taking some side trips. If it was 10 hours and this was an episode, I would be
Okay,
really
I see your
upset.
thought process.
But
Right.
I'm okay. I'm okay with this as being one of the 18 hours. I actually feel this is a stronger episode than some of the earlier ones. And
I guess I enjoyed it in some ways more than the other ones, but then
Right.
the Twin Peaks part of me got very frustrated by
Sure.
it. So
yeah, no, I mean I don't want to see too much more of this, but it was fun while it lasted.
okay, so because it was going to be so hard to kind of break down this episode other than to talk about our feelings about it and that kind of stuff, I just started grabbing tweets. I wanted to grab people's instant takes on this. Listeners, you send us stuff on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. Give them to it. And let's just get to the range. Like, here's a great one. I don't understand what's going on, but I like the hell out of it. The exact opposite take of that is, as a massive fan of the original series, I had no illusions about the remake, but the new Twin Peaks is unwatchable.
Wow.
Let's
Just
go.
this is a tweet from tonight.
This is a tweet,
Yeah,
based
okay.
on tonight's show.
Gotcha.
Here's another one. David Lynch is a goddamn genius. Another one. So, did Ed Wood direct this episode? If David Lynch
call.
wants to make his own little weird art project, that's fine, but he shouldn't be putting it on TV and calling it Twin Peaks. Ooh. Tonight's episode is going to be divisive. Personally, I'm not enjoying it. Episode 8 is the kind of episode where we need Mark Frost to step in and be like, nah, we need some plot, David.
Uh-huh.
Where other people, once again, let me get to it. Here's one that says, if you're watching Twin Peaks and saying, whoa, what am I watching? Then you were never a true Lynch fan in the first place.
Wow.
This is art.
Aw.
Great episode for folks who love Lynch. Horrible episode for folks who love Twin Peaks. Oh, I guess in some ways that's kind of what I was saying. Lynch may be influenced and inspired by other masters, but tonight's Twin Peaks sets him apart again as a breathtakingly original artist. This is everything I wanted in Twin Peaks.
Ah.
There was one other tweet that I just loved where somebody tweeted out, okay, so Laura is the moonchild. Bob is born of the couple. The town is killed by evil and looks eerily similar to Twin Peaks. Do you take this, the Laura in the gold orb, as her being the moonchild?
It seems to track. I mean, that's a great call. Do we know who wrote that?
Sorry, I was so quickly copying.
All right, well, we'll give him a shout out next time. But that's really interesting. I mean, it does lead to other questions.
Yeah.
In terms of, well, give the Moonchild a break. She I mean, the Moonchild's had some rough nights, but that's a good call. That's a good call. That's a lot of fun.
So, very diverse views. We're going to stew on these diverse views
Yeah.
for 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, we will, and I kind of like that this is what they're taking a break with, because I'd much rather see this than it was just a typical episode. So I like that they're taking enough chances that the opinions are so disparate. This one I happen to be on board with, but next week or next episode, I could hate it and you could love it. So,
We have never really been in sync, Mork.
No, that is
There
true.
were 8 parts. I don't know. We've kind of come close maybe once or twice, and we both did enjoy this episode. It's
Right.
just I enjoyed it for what it was. You're right. Maybe it's just a one piece. Hopefully, at the end, I'll be able to look back at it and be like, that 1 hour.
I will.
It gave me a fun little psychedelic trip.
Yeah, it was certainly fun to watch. The only things, as I said earlier, the only things I didn't like about it was just when it was too slow. When we spent the 4 minutes with the band, the 3 minutes with the guy walking, the giant walking from one part of the room to the other. I really did enjoy this, but I am looking forward to spend a little bit more time with Mr.
Don't assume.
Jackpots.
We may never see Mr. Jackpots again.
We may never. If maybe Janie will shoot him. And
Remember how we thought, oh, wow, we got Amy Shields' autograph? 8 hours in, she hasn't had any lines, and she appeared in a lineup with 2 other women.
Let's not tell any of our prize winners that, though.
Right. Don't assume anything, listeners.
Don't assume anything. Her time is coming.
So we're going to have 2 weeks off. Hopefully, in about a week and a half, we're going to have a feedback episode featuring your thoughts. You've heard ours. We're all over the map. We want to hear from you. If you love it, come to us, defend it. We're going to love hearing that you loved it. If you were one of those people who are ready with pitchforks to burn Showtime to the ground, hey, we're here for everybody. We want to hear it. Nobody take anything personal. This is the roller coaster we've signed up to enjoy.
Yeah. Let's do this. I'm loving this.
So for everyone here on Twin Peaks, The Gifted, and
The Well.
And the horse.
And the white of the eye.
And the water.
And the darkness within.
Drink full.
And the damned.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FitandTrim. That's FITTENTRIM at FitandTrim on Twitter.
And Twitter also has a second handle. It's called Extraordinary. That's where Mork is. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. It's